New origins and causes of multiple sclerosis and other neurodegenerative diseases have recently been suggested in the research. With the help of phonar upright multi-position MR, abnormal CSF flow and stasis have been shown to be associated with these conditions, and CSF flow stasis has been associated with past cranio-cervical trauma. Dr. Evans and I discussed the research and more on this episode of the Upper Cervical Chiropractic Research Show. I've also done an overview and summary video you can find on the channel if you'd like to see that. Hi there, I'm Dr. Kevin Leach here with the Chiropractic Deep Dive Podcast, bringing you the most important research and information on conservative primary spine care, upper cervical chiropractic care, and traditional chiropractic care. These research reviews, interviews, and episodes are made for you, whether you're a medical doctor, patient, or concerned family member or friend. The goal of these shows is to bring awareness of the importance of taking care of our spine and the impact it has on our health and the hundreds of different health conditions it could cause without us realizing it. I'm really trying to bring value with these, so I'd appreciate commenting on the videos, hitting the like button, and sharing them with as many people as you can. You never know who might need to see it. And consider subscribing to the channel so you can see all the other episodes and videos coming out. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your support. Now on to the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Chiropractic Deep Dive Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin Leach, and this is episode number 7 of the Upper Cervical Chiropractic Research Show. This episode's research review is titled The Possible Role of Cranio-Cervical Trauma and Abnormal CSF Hydrodynamics in the Genesis of Multiple Sclerosis by Raymond, Damadian, and David Chu, published in Physiological Chemistry and Physics and Medical NMR. The hypothesis this paper is trying to investigate is such that a probable cause of multiple sclerosis plaques are caused by CSF leaks into the brain. The CSF leaks into the brain are caused by faulty CSF hydrodynamics and stasis of the CSF. A probable cause of CSF stasis is history of trauma to the cranio-cervical region of the spine causing a mechanical disruption of proper cerebrospinal fluid flow. This paper compares 8 MS patients with cervical pathology to 7 healthy patients without cervical pathology. I'll go ahead and read the abstract and then we'll get into it. Upright multi-position MR scanning has uncovered a key set of new observations regarding multiple sclerosis, which observations are likely to provide a new understanding of the origin of MS. The new findings may also lead to new forms of treatment for MS. The upright MRI has demonstrated pronounced anatomic pathology of the cervical spine in 5 of the MS patients studied and definitive cervical pathology in the other 3. The pathology was the result of prior head and neck trauma. All 8 MS patients entered the study on a first-come, first-served basis without priority, and all but 1 were found to have a history of serious prior cervical trauma, which resulted in significant cervical pathology. The cervical pathology was visualized by upright MRI. Upright cerebrospinal fluid, CSF cinematography, and quantitative measurements of CSF velocity, CSF flow, and CSF pressure gradients in the upright patient revealed that significant obstructions to CSF flow were present in all MS patients. The obstructions are believed to be responsible for CSF leakages of CSF from the ventricles into the surrounding brain parenchyma, which leakages can be the source of the MS lesions in the brain that give rise to MS symptomatology. The CSF flow obstructions are believed to result in increases in intracranial pressure, ICP, that generate leakages of the CSF into the surrounding brain parenchyma. In all but 1 MS patient, anatomic pathologies were found to be more severe in the upright position than in the recumbent position. Similarly, CSF flow abnormalities were found to be more severe in the upright position than in the recumbent position in all but 1 MS patient. Images of the MS patient anatomic pathologies and CSF flow abnormalities are provided with comparison images from normal examinees in Figure 1.5. This paper is the first of its kind linking cranio-cervical trauma to multiple sclerosis. When MRI imaging was first made available, it allowed us to see the plaquing lesions in the brain with patients diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Advances in this imaging are allowing us to hypothesize the origin and creation of these lesions, also leading to potential in new treatments for MS. The MS patients that were in this study were not chosen, but were used in a first-come, first-served basis. The only criteria was that they were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Measurements for the 8 MS patients and the 8 normal healthy patients were cervical pathology visualized by upright MRI, CSF cinematography, quantitative measurements of CSF velocity, CSF flow, and CSF pressure gradients. Significant CSF flow disruption was found in every MS patient and none of the healthy patients. Images are available in the research of every patient and normal patient, so you can see visually where the obstruction is or is not. It's really quite incredible. There are 3 main findings in the research conducted. The first is that they found abnormal CSF flow in every single MS patient, and that the abnormal flow was directly correlated with the pathology found on the imaging. None of the normal patients exhibited any of this. The second is that a history of severe cervical trauma was found in 6 of the 8 MS patients, with a high likelihood of cervical trauma in the 7th patient. The third is a new finding of CSF inflow and inflow velocity recorded to be half in the recumbent position compared to the upright position. In the paper, a chart indicates the information of each MS patient in regard to history of cranio-cervical trauma, nature of the trauma, years physical trauma preceded the diagnosis, descriptions of the MS image pathology, and current symptoms. Also recorded for each MS patient and healthy patients is upright and recumbent readings of systolic CSF velocity, diastolic CSF velocity, pressure gradient peak to peak, MRI image analysis, cine CSF flow analysis, differences of MRI upright versus recumbent, and differences of cine upright versus recumbent. An important difference between the MS patients and normal patients that was observed was that a significant difference in CSF cine was observed in MS patients when comparing upright versus recumbent, while no change was observed in normal patients upright and recumbent. The finding that produced the most difference between MS patients and the normal patients was CSF inflow velocity. An interesting and unexpected finding was that in MS patients and normal patients, there was a decrease of CSF inflow into the brain in the upright position compared to recumbent, which raises questions on the importance of increased flow of CSF in the recumbent position in regards to normal physiology. It's possible that the reason we sleep in a recumbent position, or just the fact that we do, enhances CSF functions of bringing nutrients to the brain and taking away metabolic waste products. Now, very importantly, and one of the main reasons, in my opinion, that this research was done was the fact that in the study, the MS patients' motor vehicle collisions and head and neck traumas were correlated. However, they were never correlated with their medical doctors when diagnosed with the MS. This paper is trying to establish this connection so that healthcare providers can keep this in mind when dealing with patients with multiple sclerosis and other neurodegenerative conditions. Another important finding was that anatomic pathology was more severe in the upright position for MS patients than in the recumbent position. Dr. Evans and I did a discussion in episode 2 about this mechanism having to do with the cerebellar tonsillar ectopia, or Chiari malformation, where the tonsils of the cerebellum descend into the spinal canal, causing a variety of health issues. Now, to get into the mechanism of what this abnormal CSF flow causes in the brain, increased CSF flow velocities are associated with increased pressure gradients, causing increased ICP, or intracranial pressure, can be the cause of this CSF leak into the brain tissue, and maybe not so coincidentally at the ventricles where CSF is produced. As it's known, many MS lesions are typically found periventricular areas, meaning outside of the ventricles. Existence of periventricular edema found on all 8 MS patients' MRI images suggests the leaking process of the CSF. The study states that the most important finding of this research are the leaks that link CSF to the production of MS lesions found on MRI, and begs the question that if MS lesions are not linked to the CSF hydrodynamics, why are the majority of the lesions found in the periventricular space and not distributed randomly throughout the brain? So what happens when there is CSF leakage? How does this lead to demyelination of the nerves? Proteins are a major ingredient in the CSF. There are 9 proteins found in CSF that are not found in serum. The proposed mechanism is that the presence of these proteins triggers an immune response attacking the nerves as an autoimmune response. I want to say that I heard Dr. Scott Rosa, a prominent doctor in this area of research, once propose an alternative process. I do not quote him, I don't want to speak for him. However, I seem to remember him saying that it may not be an actual autoimmune response and demyelination process happening, but only an inflammatory process happening, causing damage and symptomatology. An Italian doctor by the name of Zamboni developed a procedure for MS patients where he would install an expansion stent into the jugular veins to help decrease ICP in MS patients. Some had great results, other temporary or no results, which suggests other mechanisms involved that were not corrected with the procedure. More information about Zamboni's work and different mechanisms involved is in the paper itself. You may have heard about CTE in regards to professional football players and other athletes of violent sports. CTE as chronic traumatic encephalopathy, not CTE as in cerebellar tonsillar ectopia, as mentioned earlier. What they're finding is tau proteins, a component of the CSF in the brains of athletes who have died in association with neurological conditions. The mechanism is thought to be repetitive trauma to the brain causing a leak of the CSF and thus the tau proteins into the brain. In addition, these tau proteins have also been linked to Alzheimer's, suggesting too that they are linked to the CSF. Multiple authors have linked trauma to MS, but the missing link being about to understand how exactly that trauma has led to the MS and MS lesions. It is hoped that with stopping the leaking of CSF, that myelinogenesis can heal the damaged myelin and thus restore health. Okay, let's go from start to finish on the pathway or the cascading of processes leading up to their hypothesis. Person incurs an injury to the head, neck, or head and neck known as the cranio-cervical junction. This injury immediately, if creating a misalignment in the cranio-cervical junction and also over time because of the degeneration process that occurs because of the trauma, interferes with the proper flow of CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid surrounding the brain and spinal cord. The disruption of CSF flow could cause stasis and/or increased intracranial pressure, which leads to CSF leakage into the brain tissue, the CSF containing over 300 polypeptides and 9 different antigenic proteins being in the parenchyma of the brain, causes an immune reaction where these invaders are attacked. This attack, as an autoimmune response, creates inflammation, edema, and a demyelination process of the nerves, leading to symptomatology and the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, meaning multiple plaques as found on MRI that are diagnostic of MS. So, in conclusion, this research suggests that if you've had a motor vehicle collision persistent with headache, neck pain, or any other symptom not there before the collision, that you are examined with an upright phonar MRI to assess the CSF hydrodynamics and cervical anatomy. I personally recommend you get checked and adjusted by an upper cervical chiropractor as soon as possible. That's it for this episode. So what did you learn that fascinated you or surprised you about the research today? Join or start the conversation in the comments below. Hey, thanks so much for watching. To watch more of our research shows, click or tap the screen right there. To subscribe to the channel, click or tap the screen right there. Until next time, I'm Dr. Kevin Leach with the Upper Cervical Chiropractic Research Show, bringing awareness to conservative primary spine care, upper cervical chiropractic care, and traditional chiropractic. Until next time, take care and take care of your spine. It's the only one you'll ever have.